Welcome back to Is It True? The channel where we explore complex topics and uncover the facts. Today, we're going to talk about denaturalization. I've seen chatter on TikTok and articles implying that Trump is going to kick a lot of naturalized citizens out of the country. But is it true? Let's break it down. So, what is denaturalization? Denaturalization occurs when the U.S. government revokes the citizenship of a naturalized citizen, someone who wasn't born in the U.S. This is a serious legal process that can only happen in federal court and is typically divided into two types, criminal and civil. Criminal proceedings are pursued when there's evidence that someone committed a significant crime to gain citizenship. Civil denaturalization happens when offenses are deemed significant, but not necessarily criminal. While civil cases don't come with the risk of jail time, they also offer fewer legal protections, causing concern among experts. Page 143 of Project 2025 mentions plans to reestablish a denaturalization unit to identify and prosecute cases involving fraud or other illicit means of obtaining citizenship. This unit would be part of USCIS, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. This is the agency that oversees immigration. Denaturalization is nothing new in the U.S. Let's explore history for context. In the first half of the 20th century, denaturalization was more common, especially during the years leading up to World War II. Between 1935 and 1941, approximately 1,000 people lost their citizenship each year. The reasons varied, including participating in controversial political activities, being affiliated with groups deemed disloyal, voting in foreign elections, and serving in foreign military forces. In some cases, women could lose their citizenship simply for marrying a non-U.S. citizen. A shift came with the 1967 Supreme Court case Afroyim versus Rusk. This case involved a man named Bays Afroyim, who had become a U.S. citizen and then registered to vote in Israel. The Supreme Court ruled that once citizenship is granted, the government cannot revoke it unless it was obtained fraudulently or the individual was ineligible at the time of application. So, did denaturalization stop after that ruling? No, but it became much less common. From 1990 to 2008, there were only 7 cases per year, and they usually involved serious offenses like war crimes or fraudulent applications. The numbers started to increase during the Obama administration, largely due to Operation Janus, a task force focused on identifying fraudulent cases that may have slipped through the cracks. This effort continued under the Trump administration, and its scope expanded to include cases involving lesser infractions such as application omissions. The Supreme Court did not agree with the expanded scope. In 2017, the Supreme Court case Maslanjak versus United States clarified that only material falsehoods that would have prevented someone from becoming a citizen could justify denaturalization. This ruling emphasized that minor inaccuracies or omissions made out of fear or honest mistakes are not enough to revoke citizenship. Let's listen to a snippet from the oral arguments.
Where has the agency ever denied naturalization because of an immaterial state?
I'm not aware of a particular case in which that has occurred. These are not published decisions, so I couldn't say. But I would note, however, that if that lie is not discovered, and the alien manages to procure naturalization notwithstanding it. The government's position would be that at that point, that person has procured naturalization in a circumstance in which they are not eligible, because as a factual matter, they had lied, and because they lied, they were then, it was incumbent upon them to show extenuating circumstances. They did not do that, and so they would be ineligible. I would also like to note, though, that
on that interpretation and on your interpretation of 1425 and the words that say in 1451 shall be deprived of his citizenship, given the seriousness of that, your interpretation would raise a pretty serious constitutional question, wouldn't it?
I don't think so.
No, it's not a serious constitutional question of whether an American citizen can have his citizenship taken away because 40 years before he did not deliberately put on paper what his nickname was or what his speeding record was 30 years before that, which was in fact totally immaterial. That's not a constitutional question.
Well, I don't think so, because Congress has, number one, specified that immaterial false statements are grounds for denying naturalization, but I also would note that, I mean, there are a few responses. One is the criminal provision, at least, has a 10-year statute of limitations, so it wouldn't be 40. But I think that it's important to remember that denaturalization is not like a lifetime bar on citizenship. All denaturalization does is it returns you to the status of a lawful permanent resident. You then have to wait 5 years, and if after the end of those 5 years you can demonstrate that you are entitled to citizenship, you can be renaturalized.
I don't
it also
know if it's
doesn't
a problem of a constitutional statute, but it is certainly a problem of prosecutorial abuse. If you take the position that refusing to, not answering about the speeding ticket or the nickname is enough to subject that person to denaturalization, the government will have the opportunity to denaturalize anyone they want, because everybody is going to have a situation where they didn't put in something like that, or at least most people. And then the government can decide, we're going to denaturalize you for other reasons than what might appear on your naturalization form, or we're not. And that, to me, is troublesome, to give that extraordinary power, which essentially is unlimited power, at least in most cases, to the government. Well, that strikes me as a serious problem.
Despite this ruling, the Trump administration was still able to target an increased number of naturalized citizens for denaturalization. Let's look at some of the people affected by these efforts. First, Parvez Manzoor Khan, a 62-year-old truck driver and grandfather from Florida who had been a U.S. citizen since 2006. The government targeted him for not disclosing a past deportation order, one he might not have even known about. By 2020, a judgment was entered against him. Then there's Norma Borgono, who immigrated from Peru in 1989 and became a citizen in 2007. She worked as a secretary for someone involved in loan fraud. Norma cooperated with authorities and took a plea deal, but she hadn't reported this on her citizenship application. So how did this happen? In February 2020, a new Denaturalization Section was created, emphasizing a focus on terrorists, war criminals, sex offenders, and other fraudsters who illegally obtain naturalization. While this sounds targeted at serious crimes, many cases, like the ones we just discussed, involved technicalities or errors. But could the upcoming Trump administration expand denaturalization? It's possible. A Supreme Court ruling on constitutional issues is usually final. To overturn a decision like Maslenjak versus United States, which set limits on denaturalization, we would need either a constitutional amendment, a new Supreme Court ruling, or an executive order. A constitutional amendment would require a supermajority in Congress and ratification by 3/4 of the states, which is not going to happen. While Republicans will have a majority in Congress, they do not have a supermajority. I could not find any upcoming Supreme Court cases that would overturn this ruling. Of course, this could change at any time. We've seen precedents like Roe v. Wade overturned, so there's a chance Maslanjak v. United States or Afroyim v. Rusk could be challenged. And then there's executive orders. While most scholars agree that the Supreme Court settled this debate, a small but vocal group of conservative legal scholars argue that the 14th Amendment has long been misread. This could open the door, but it would face many legal challenges. So is it true? Yes. Denaturalization efforts will be ramping up under Trump. During his last administration, the causes of denaturalization expanded but remained focused on those with criminal convictions. This is a much lower standard than what was established in recent history when denaturalization was reserved for terrorists and war criminals. I think they will continue to focus on people with certain criminal convictions, cases of fraud, and severe inaccuracies. This could lead to a slippery slope. But as of today, it doesn't seem like mass deportations of naturalized citizens will be taking place under the Trump administration. What do you think? Is it true? Be sure to share your thoughts below. Thanks for watching.